Welcome back to the Gimmighoul Cup. It is your usual analyst and coach of the LA Go-Goats here to report on the Motostoke City PC versus the Brain Rotom team. Motostoke City PC has actually brought something new, in that Gyarados is making its debut appearance. One of the more expensive drafts, Gyarados' set is usually as an Intimidate support with a powerful attacking stat to help break walls and create openings for the team. Gyarados has very good bulk, with it, especially on the special side, and with Intimidate it can bring great physical defense as well, as even though its base defense is so-so, Intimidate lowering a stage of attack is basically bolstering its physical defense in a roundabout way. Gyarados also has a uniquely good defensive typing in a Flying and Water, and it's being paired into a Rain comp that Brain Rotom's brought, which is fantastic for the Gyarados given that it resists Stab from 4 different Pokemon out of Brain Rotom 6, and it only really needs to worry about the Rotom throwing Electric-type attacks at it. While Gyarados this week didn't bring Intimidate, it's instead rocking a Moxie set, it is playing the role of both a support and attacker, based off what the situation needs. Another appearance is Magnezone that matches up very well into Rain as well. Magnezone, being an Electric-type attacker, can fire off super effective damage into 3 different Pokemon on Brain Rotom's side. Rounding out the comp, they've got Decidueye, Clefable, Feraligatr, and Garchomp as an aggressive attacking core, with a couple supportive options on the Decidueye as well. Brain Rotom seems to have debuted their Ludicolo this set. While it typically sees play as a Swift Swim Sweeper, as it's incredibly fast in the rain and has a fantastic special attack stat, as well as coverage in Dual Stab from Grass and Water, Brain Rotom has opted for a more defensive stall set, running Leech Seed and Rain Dish. While that does make Ludicolo notably more bulky, Ludicolo is not the most defensive Pokemon, and so dedicated attacks will still bring the Pineapple down. To offset that, though, Ludicolo still does get a benefit to being in the rain, Water-type damage boost, and it's being supported by a bunch of walls, and some new tech on Politoed, a Perish Song. Usually Perish Song is paired with a Pokemon that has the ability to prevent your opponent's Pokemon from switching out, that being Shadow Tag. However, none of Brain Rotom's lineup has Shadow Tag, so they'll probably be looking to take 2 KOs and then set up Perish Song, putting your opponent's Pokemon on a 3-turn timer. If they cannot get the win in that 3 turns, Perish Song secures the deal. It is a unique win condition, and with a lot of bulk on that lineup, with bulk-invested Rotom, Chandelure, Ludicolo, and Muk, they do seem to be trying to play for a Perish win con. We'll see if it works out for them. So with that first turn, we see Gyarados and Magnezone facing off against Muk and Toxicroak. While this looks like a pretty good matchup on surface level for Brain Rotom, with Toxicroak threatening super effective damage into the Magnezone and Muk being able to set up defense buffs and stall out Gyarados, it's a little bit more tricky than that. Gyarados does pack Earthquake, which is super effective against every other Pokemon on the board. Normally you wouldn't want to Earthquake your own Magnezone, but when you threaten 2 KOs and you have Moxie, boosting your attack for each knockout you get, that Earthquake becomes a lot more appealing. Adding in, this Magnezone is rocking the Magnet Rise move, allowing it to levitate, making it immune to ground-type attacks, so those Gyarados Earthquakes from the side won't be doing nearly as much damage. So for turn 1, Gyarados immediately fires off a Taunt into the Muk slot, while Toxicroak goes for Fake Out into the Magnezone. Fake Out stops Magnezone from moving, and likely from setting up what I assume would have been a Magnet Rise, whereas Taunt disables the Acid Armor that the Muk has become so used to getting away with. Without that defense buff, Muk is a bit of a sitting duck here, as it doesn't have any offensive pressure, and without utility moves like Poison or defensive setup, it can't stall anything out either. That's basically going to force Muk to switch. I imagine Toxicroak will take a similarly defensive angle for turn 2. So for turn 2, we see the Toxicroak fire off a close combat into Magnezone, coming close but not quite yet taking that KO, even though it's super effective. Magnezone has incredible physical bulk, and I imagine this Magnezone, given its supportive moveset, is also invested defensively. With that investment, Magnezone does survive the close combat and gets off a Magnet Rise, allowing it to become immune to ground-type moves. Gyarados goes for a Crunch into the slot of the Toxicroak, but even after the close combat defense drop, the super effective Crunch barely does anything, as the Croak resists it. Finally, Ludicolo comes in to replace the Taunted Muck. So for turn 3, we see Politoed replace the defense-dropped Toxicroak, bringing Rain in and setting up Ludicolo's Rain Dish. Ludicolo reveals Leech Seed, so it's playing a triple healing set of Rain Dish to heal in the rain, Leech Seed to heal off an opponent's Pokemon, and Leftovers for end-of-turn healing. It's a very bulky, stalling set for Ludicolo, which you don't typically see. It's a unique tech piece. Meanwhile, the Gyarados sends out an Earthquake, which, compared to Politoed's bulk and Ludicolo's resistance, does practically nothing, leaving Magnezone to be seated. Magnezone does make a great defensive maneuver here, though, getting up a Light Screen. Light Screen will half the special damage that team takes for 5 to 8 turns. So for turn 4, Ludicolo and Politoed both hit Protect, stalling out Trick Room, stalling out Light Screen, and also stalling out Rain. Gyarados continues to try and fire off Earthquakes into the slot, even though they're being taken pretty well. It's meaningful chip damage on the Politoed. But with Protect on both sides, the move is blocked. Leech Seed finishes the kill on Magnezone and brings in Clefable, but Clefable behind a Light Screen is going to be really hard for either of these Pokemon to bring down. Factor in her ability Magic Guard, meaning she doesn't take damage unless it's from a direct targeted damaging move. Clefable is going to be almost impossible for this lineup of Pokemon to get off the board. In order to kill Clefable, a Toxicroak with like a Gunk Shot or a Poison Jab is going to have to come in and cleanly take that KO. For turn 5, we see Politoed reveal that Perish Song, which I think, in this analyst's opinion, is a bit of a misplay here. Perish Song is usually used when your opponent is down to their final 2 Pokemon, because then you can't switch out of it and those Pokemon are set on a hard 3-turn timer. As it is now, Motostoke City PC does have another Pokemon in the back, so in theory, they can cycle out of these Perish timers and make sure that their Pokemon stay alive. On the other end, Ludicolo goes for the Giga Drain into the Terra Dark Gyarados. It does critically hit, breaking through that Light Screen, but it does not manage to take the KO, showing off Gyarados' pretty impressive physical bulk. But also, this Ludicolo isn't fully attack invested either. Had this been a max special attack Ludicolo max speed, it may have gotten that KO. On the other end, Gyarados fires a devastating Terra Dark Crunch into Politoed, nearly taking the kill, though Politoed is still able to get up that song. We'll have to see how they play around it now that Motostoke City PC is incentivized to switch out one of these Pokemon to reset the Perish timer. For turn 6, we see another small misplay on behalf of Brain Rotom. Clefable has two abilities, one being Unaware, but the other being the Magic Guard. Because it has Magic Guard, it will not take any damage from Leech Seed that goes into that slot. Without taking Leech Seed damage, the Ludicolo also will not be healing off of it either. As a result, Ludicolo sort of wastes its turn, eating a deadly crunch, bringing it down to 26% after the Rain healing and the Leftovers healing. Politoed makes the predictable but smart play to protect, as it's super low and with a Perish timer ticking down every turn matters. But Motostoke City PC is not one to just let the momentum shift like that. So Gyarados puts out more offensive pressure, making use of the last bits of turns under Perish Song it has. Now Brain Rotom is in a really bad spot, as their only two Pokemon remaining are a weakened Ludicolo and a Muck. Both of them are out of rain now, and this Gyarados, having just taken 2 KOs, gets a 2x attack bonus, one stage for each Pokemon knocked out. One more Earthquake should seal doom for both of those Pokemon. Ludicolo protects, knowing what's incoming, that Earthquake. However, with +2 attack and no acid armors on that Muck, Earthquake cleanly takes the KO. Gyarados dies to its last turn of Perish, but now Ludicolo's facing down a 1 versus 2. Had Ludicolo been max speed invested, it likely would have actually pulled out the win here. Being able to fire off Giga Drains into the Feraligatr slot would heal its health up, and with the Terra Grass, it would be able to continuously Giga Drain Clefable, likely outpacing even if it had set up in Magic Guard. However, or not Magic Guard, if it had set up with Calm Mind. However, as it stands now, Feraligatr and, well, Feraligator's definitely going to be faster than the little pineapple. Yep, there we see it. Clean KO with Crunch. So game 1 goes to Motostoke City PC. They're able to maneuver around that bulky Rainstall team, and without having both Pokemon knocked out, they're able to maneuver out of the Perish Trap as well. We'll see if Brain Rotom can make an adjustment for game 2. I imagine they're going to play a much more aggressive lead to be able to activate that Perish Trap win con much sooner. Something like a Rotom definitely puts the Gyarados in its place as well, so I'm anticipating we'll probably see Rotom wash for game 2. And in a new format switch, we have game 2 queued up here. So Brain Rotom sticks with their lead of Toxicroak and Muck. However, Motostoke City PC mixes it up, leading Decidueye with an Air Balloon and Garchomp, which can really only mean one thing. Garchomp is about to fire off an Earthquake. The balloon will make the Decidueye completely immune to that, and it'll likely be supplementing it with either Tailwind or Helping Hand. Meanwhile, on the other side, we have the Toxicroak and the Muck, which are both weak to that. Toxicroak can fire off a Fake Out into the Garchomp to try and buy some time, but one of these Pokemon is definitely going to have to switch out. You can't have two Ground-type weak Pokemon facing down Garchomp, one of the historically best Pokemon in the doubles format. It's fast, it hits hard, and it's really bulky. Yep, there's the Fake Out to buy the time. So for turn 1, as predicted, Fake Out stops the Garchomp from immediately sweeping both of these things, while Muck goes for a Toxic on the Garchomp, putting it on a timer. Decidueye sets up Tailwind for the team, giving them all a huge speed boost, and now making both of these Pokemon outspeed Brain Rotoms. On turn 2, Toxicroak goes out, and the other frog, Politoed, comes in, setting up Rain. Decidueye goes for Protect, probably anticipating a Gunk Shot or maybe a knockoff from the Muck, but Muck instead opts to set up a Acid Armor, though not before Garchomp's Earthquake decimates the other side of the board. You can see the difference in power that Stab has, because Gyarados has a similar attack stack to Garchomp, but Garchomp has that ground typing, giving that Earthquake a huge damage boost and doing over half of Politoed's health in one fell swoop. Muck, who takes it pretty poorly as it's super effective, loses most of its health and only gets some back with the Citrus Berry. However, even at +2 defense, I'm not so sure Muck survives another incoming Earthquake. Brain Rotom's going to have to play very carefully and figure it out to that Earthquake spam quick. So turn 3, Earthquake rocks what's remaining of the Brain Rotom team, bringing in their final two, the Toxicroak and the Rotom. Rotom is pretty good here, as it does, well, it doesn't outspeed the Garchomp anymore, but it does have Levitate, giving it complete immunity to ground-type moves. Also, the Toxicroak can fire off a Fake Out now, and I think a Rain-boosted Hydro Pump at regular damage will finish off the weakened Garchomp. The problem is they're also still facing down the Decidueye, who is immune to the Fake Out, and who threatens super effective damage into the Rotom slot. And that's not even to say what Motostoke City PC has brought in the back. So Toxicroak Terra's ground, and instead of opting for the Fake Out, goes on the offensive with Earthquake. However, they don't seem to realize that an Air Balloon stops Decidueye from taking that at all. And even if it could take that damage, Decidueye being a Grass type does resist it. The one silver lining is at least Rotom is immune, and Rotom is able to fire off a really powerful Hydro Pump, cleanly KOing the Garchomp. But had Toxicroak gone for the Fake Out into Garchomp, it would have been much healthier for the incoming Clefable. It could kill Clefable with a Poison Jab, Gunk Shot, Belch. No, not Belch, doesn't have a berry. But any Poison-type move will threaten out Clefable, as its physical bulk is nothing impressive, and Toxicroak has very good physical attack. So this time, Decidueye reveals it does not have a Grass-type attack. Instead, it fires a knockoff into Rotom, removing its orb. Once again, Toxicroak goes for Earthquake, but it doesn't have a very high damage on that, as Clefable does seem bulk invested, and to really break through that, it's going to have to be hitting a Poison-type move. Though another Earthquake tells me that this Toxicroak probably doesn't have Poison coverage. Maybe they were relying on Muck entirely for that, but in either way, that is devastating to see, as Toxicroak needs to be able to get rid of both of these Pokemon. There's a Grass and a Fairy type over there. Should it be sending out Gunk Shots or Poison Jabs, Brain Rotom would still be in this, especially now that the Tailwind is down and Rotom could be the fastest Pokemon on the board. Yeah, there's that Hydro Pump in the rain, but the final knockoff takes the kill. And Earthquake does finish off the Clefable, after the Hydro Pump did all the work. But lastly in comes Magnezone. And a Spirit Shackle is all she wrote for Toxicroak. That effectively summarizes Game 2. In a 2-0 sweep, Motostoke City PC has taken this round. Brain Rotom did try to play to their strengths. In the past, their defensive stall-oriented teams have proven to have great results. However, Motostoke City PC definitely seemed prepared for it and just overwhelmed them with hyper offense and spread moves. The removal of Torterra did remove the protection of Wide Guard from Brain Rotom's team, and while they did trade that for rain support and Ludicolo, I'm not entirely convinced that bulky Stall Colo was the correct call here. It wasn't able to take an important kill even with a critical hit on Giga Drain, which does show you the defensive profile of Gyarados, but it also shows that sometimes a fast sweeper on a defense team could really put in numbers. I do like the idea of using Giga Drain, Leech Seed, and a healing move like Rain Dish, but I'm not sure Ludicolo has the stats to support that. I think on something like Tangrowth, which has fantastic physical bulk, that is a very good strategy. Or on Cacturn with Evasion, I could see it working out. But on the other end, it's just a bit hard given that Rain is also not a defensive weather, but an offensive one. Rain typically enables move speed like Swift Swim, and it powers up water-type attacks. All that said, because I'm trying a new format, we're going to go on to Game 3, which is a Russian roulette of Gengars. They allow themselves to be burned by items, using a whatever Wimp move in slot while that sets up. They continue to mean luck on turn 2, and then for turn 3, they both rest. Now there's 2 turns for both of them to just click Sleep Talk, throwing out a random move. One of these moves is Explosion. It seems a pretty complicated setup to get away with all of this. I think you could get the similar benefits to, what's the move? Sleep Talk assist Pokemon like Kamala? That's how I would format it personally. But Sleep Talk will pull 1 of 4 random moves, so we're gonna see which one of them blows up first. And Motostoke's blows up, giving Brain Rotom the consolation prize of winning Russian roulette. Once again, this is your analyst checking in. Thank you all for watching, and we'll have the final sets uploaded soon. We're nearing our playoffs, and it's a very, very close race. So stay tuned for that.